Okay, so hello everybody, and thank you for joining our webinar with CSA and Entro Security. Entro is a non-human identity lifecycle management company and secret security company. I want to introduce myself. So I'm Itzik Alvas. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Entro Security. I've started my cyber security journey almost 20 years ago, back at the Israeli Defense Force. There's one image of me over there. So back then I was doing mostly offensive cyber, but after the service and joining the public market, I was doing defensive cyber. So prior to Entro Security, I was responsible for the internal security of one of Microsoft's clouds. Prior to that, I was Chief Information Security Officer for an healthcare services. So pleasure to meet all of you, and today we're gonna cover a breach that happened while I was working for Microsoft, and that breach led me to start Entro, the first company in the non-human identity vertical. So that breach actually created Entro and then created the vertical. So a bit about the agenda. We're gonna cover today what are NHIs and what are secrets, a bit about the differentiators between those two. Again, I'm gonna cover a real world use case, a real world attack that happened when I was at Microsoft. We're gonna also cover the differences between IAM practices and non-human identity practices, or what is missing from IAM in order to also secure non-human identities. We're gonna touch a bit about what we're doing over here at Entro, the future of identity security, and then some takeaways that you can go ahead and implement starting from tomorrow. So it's gonna be hopefully a great session. Thank you all again for joining. Let's get going. Okay, so just to level everybody about what are non-human identities and what are secrets. So non-human identities and secrets, essentially you can think about them as credential that applications are using in order to access, or better yet authenticate against resources those application needs. I'll give an example. So let's say an application needs to use a database to read or manipulate data over there. In order to authenticate against the database, they will need some sort of credential, and that's the role of non-human identity. The difference between secrets and non-human identities is that non-human identity is an entity, like the equivalent of user in the human realm. So that identity, like service accounts, IAM roles, tokens, Azure apps, and so forth, you will have a bunch of attributes over there. The permissions are at the non-human identity level, activities are there, but then the credential of those non-human identities, those are secrets, and applications are using those credentials, those secrets, in order to go ahead and authenticate against the resources they need, like database, storage account, and so forth. So having said that, I would like to go ahead and start by showing you the headlines of the Microsoft breach that happened back then at 2023. I was working for Microsoft. I was responsible for the internal security and SREs and infrastructure over there. And that was a devastating attack for us. A lot of Microsoft code was leaked, and of course that grabbed the main headline, but literally the headline missed the real story because it was focusing on the effect on the code leak, which is, again, devastating attack. But I think the headline should have asked, how can something like that happen within Microsoft, within an organization that have any tool on the planet and develop its own security tools? We have amazing practices, or we had amazing practices over there. So I truly think the headline missed the real story, and we're gonna talk about that. Let's understand the details of what actually happened over there. Almost 40 gigabytes of source code was taken at March of 2023. The entry point was a forgotten hard-coded secret, a forgotten hard-coded programmatic credential. So no phishing going on, no malware. Somebody just logged in, and I placed that image over here that you probably saw often, where you're seeing the code right next to the log. So that's exactly what happened. Someone basically forgot or hard-coded a key, and that was enough for Microsoft code to go ahead and leak. And going back, I think that should have been the title. So a bit about my role during that incident. Again, I led the internal security at Azure Defender, which is one of Azure clouds. I was a prime part of Microsoft breach response team, so I was personally responsible to understand what had happened. It was a chaotic time. No one knew it was because hard-coded secret back then. So we ran around and tried to understand exactly what happened, and I was responsible for that. And also my team or teams that reported to me was hands-on doing the overall impact forensics and understanding what's the root cause. So that was my role back at March of 2023. So again, the root cause was basically an exposed token, and I'm not gonna go and tell you the full story of exactly what happened. There's enough articles out there, and you can go ahead and understand how we found that was an exposed secret. But also I would like to highlight that hard-coded secret was within a CI/CD pipeline. So something that developers are responsible for and developers are doing. That key had full production access, so full admin over the production environment of internal Microsoft. And also it was created by a developer who already left the organization. So even when we found it, it was really difficult to understand why it was created, why it was there, will something be affected if we're gonna remove it. So all of that is something that I thought is worthwhile mentioning. And it's not just Microsoft. The number of non-human identities and secrets per organizations are exploding. And the main problem we're seeing today in the market, is that usually developers, SREs, DevOps, like in the case we saw earlier, they are the ones who are responsible to create those non-human identities. They are the ones who are responsible to permission them, use them, and also, unfortunately, they are scattering them around. So they can use vaults. Developers can use vaults, which are essentially an encrypted database where you can keep all of those tokens, non-human identities, secrets, and the application will fetch it from there and use them to authenticate against whatever service the application needs. But often developers, unfortunately, are not using vaults, and within Microsoft we had our own vault, Azure Key Vault, that we developed. But we're seeing, and that was the case for Microsoft as well, that organizations have at least 5 different vault solutions. So you can have your HashiCorp for your on-prem and Azure Key Vault for your Azure instances, and if you're using Kubernetes, you're probably using the Kubernetes vaults. And if you're using GitHub, you're probably using GitHub Action Secrets and so forth. So those secrets are scattered between different vaults, even if they are being stored over there. But a lot of the time, they are also committed into code and into CI/CD, like we just saw. They are being sent over Teams or Slack messages within Confluence, manuals, and so forth. And the main problem we're seeing in the organization, and the main problem we had at Microsoft, after figuring out that it was by exposed secret, the main problem is that usually organizations don't really know how many non-human identities and secrets they have and where they are. And also, if you ever seen a secret, it's a long read-only string. And that means that if a security professional will find one, and when we found it, because it's a long read-only string, you don't really know anything about it. You don't know who created it, for what, which application is using it, to access what resource, what's their permission, was it rotated, replaced in time to meet compliance, and so forth. And when you combine everything, when you combine that organization don't know how many non-human identities and secrets they have, where they are, or how they can be utilized, that's why usually they fail in protecting them, or it's a really difficult procedure to protect those non-human identities. And that results in today that secrets and non-human identities are the second most frequent attack vector and the number one most devastating or costly attack to an organization, and that was mentioned by both of the top industry reports, IBM Cost of Data Breach and Verizon report, the leading report in the industry. So it's definitely a huge, huge problem. Another attack, not related to the Microsoft that I was experiencing back then, but something that affected me. A developer took a screenshot of his code and uploaded it into Medium to help peers, but he forgot an hard-coded secret over here, and you can see that the marked in red highly randomized string over here, which is a secret, an non-human identity, and that was enough for 1 billion records to be stolen out of Binance. My own personal wallet was stolen back then, so just another quick attack to show you it's not only Microsoft. So why existing tools, when we found it was an exposed token at the CICD, why existing tools weren't enough? So as mentioned, there are vaults, and back then developers were creating those non-human identities and secrets, and they committed them into code or used config files, but then vaults came out, which basically gave one place to rule them all. But again, not all developers are using them, and unfortunately, at least from our own research, about a third is using them, and that means that about 70% are not actually vaulted. And because of that, secret scanners came out, which basically give you the ability to find highly randomized strings, but that created a lot of noise, a lot of false positives. So then secret scanners with validation came out. They are trying to validate if the token is actually enabled or disabled. The reason for the false positives is they will find a lot of secrets. And then even if they were secrets, you wanted to know, okay, so is it enabled or disabled? Because if it's disabled, then I can keep it there. Why should I care? But if it's enabled, maybe there's a risk. But then you will probably need more details, such as, okay, even if it's enabled, does it belong to my organization? Can someone use it in order to access my organization? And if so, what permission? Is it production? Is it admin with production? Is it a test environment, and so forth? And that's why Entro created a secret scanner with non-human identities capabilities, and I'm gonna cover that one soon. Just briefly, why IAM practices are not gonna protect you for non-human identities. As you probably know, humans, the growth of them are really slow. It's more employees in the organization, more human accounts, but non-human identities are flying at the speed of code. No source of truth for non-human identities, no Okta or Active Directory. Lacking context, as we just said. Developers are creating non-human identities where there's proper security and IT practices for human accounts, and overall no life cycle management for non-human identities. So back then, after the attack, I realized something bigger. We needed the visibility. We needed to understand how many non-human identities we have. We needed to understand the context around the exposure. As I just mentioned, if we find an exposed secret, is it enabled, disabled, can it access my production environment, and so forth, something we didn't add. And then we need to fully manage the lifecycle of non-human identities and secrets like we're doing for human identities. We need to manage the lifecycle from inception to decommission. And that's basically what led me to leave Microsoft and go ahead and start Entro Security. And that's what Entro is doing. Entro is helping organizations to fully protect, manage, and secure the lifecycle of non-human identities with 6 pillars. Inventory, giving you the ability to understand how many non-human identities you have and where. Classification, drawing up a map of which application is using what non-human identity to access what resource and other vital data around them, like who's the human owner, permissions, activities, Everything you need to know in order to understand the blast radius of that non-human identity. Once we have the inventory in place and once we have the classification in place, now we can do static risk analysis, posture management, misconfiguration to answer questions like how many of my non-human identities are not vaulted, how many of them have not been rotated, how many have admin permission they don't need and use, and so forth. Then we're monitoring them for any abnormal behavior. So if someone, let's say from North Korea, is using Microsoft token to access Microsoft, but Microsoft is not doing business with North Korea, we should be able to detect that, alert about that, and prevent it. So that's what non-human identity detection and response, the NHI phase, is doing. Rotation and vaulting, being able to rotate our tokens automatically and to move them to a specific vault. Entro is not a vault solution, but we do tap into the different vaults and able to monitor and protect the secrets over there, and then also push exposed secrets into a vault. And decommissioning, ending the lifecycle, ending the life of that non-human identity while it's no longer needed. That's the solution and product or platform that Entro is providing now because of the attack that I experienced back then at Microsoft. A bit about the future of identity security. NHIs will continue to dominate cloud workloads because every application needs to use resources like database and storage accounts or other application, and they are doing that with non-human identity. Agentic AI are creating more non-human identities, and also agentic AI, at the end of the day, it's an application. Yes, it has reasoning. Yes, it has other abilities, but at the end of the day, it's application, and that application interacts with your environment using non-human identities. So if the agentic AI needs to access your calendar or database, it will use a non-human identity in order to read or manipulate the data over there, and that means the same security solution, the same platform I just showed you guys, will cover agentic AI security as well. Secrets, those credentials, those NHIs are defining the new perimeter because there is no network perimeter anymore. Of course, the very broad blast radius, because usually those non-human identities hold huge permissions or very wide permissions. It's very hard to detect unauthorized activities without NHI capability, as I mentioned earlier. And of course, the supply chain attacks. If you are using, MongoDB, and MongoDB is getting breached, MongoDB is connecting to your environment using non-human identity. So there's a large supply chain attack scenario over here. So what can you do? Pretty straightforward. You need to think about not only using secret scanner, not only using Vault, but to use them with non-human identity security. Yes, secrets, you need secrets detection, but it's lacking context, and it's lacking focus on stuff that are not in code. As mentioned earlier, developers are sharing them over Slack and Teams and other locations. And only NHI security is doing governance around NHI, but is missing altogether the secrets part. So you need to think about both of them combined, about non-human identity and everything that non-human identity security is giving, and also secret scanner and everything that is giving. And when you merge or marry the two together, and that's what Entro is doing, that will give you a comprehensive security of all of your non-human identities and their credentials, the secrets. So I would like to thank you for the time. Hopefully you found that time useful. And feel free to reach out. You can reach out using our website, entro.security. You can contact us over there, or just look me up over LinkedIn. I would love to answer any question that you have.